Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're looking at what our source text calls the architecture of resilience. Usually when we think about mental fortitude, we kind of picture it as this mystical trait, right? Like something you're either lucky enough to be born with or you just aren't. But the text actually invites us to look at our own minds the exact same way a structural engineer looks at the blueprints for a massive skyscraper.
Which brings us to a really profound question. How resilient are you? Seriously, pause for a second and think about that. Because, let's be honest, we usually only bother to ask ourselves this when a crisis hits, when the walls already feel like they're closing in. But assessing our structural capacity before the unexpected happens, that is what actually keeps the building standing when the ground inevitably starts to shake.
And I absolutely love how the text demystifies this whole concept. It gives us this incredibly simple quote, laying out that resilience isn't some quirky personality trait. It's actually a measurable blueprint built on a really straightforward equation, your stress versus your coping skills. You don't need to go psychoanalyze your entire childhood or take a 50-page personality test. You literally just need to weigh these two interacting variables. It essentially takes this concept that feels like magic and turns it into math.
So let's break this down a bit, starting with the first variable, stress. In physical architecture, engineers are always calculating dead loads and live loads, right? That massive, compounding pressure pushing down on a building's frame. Well, in your life, this is the weight of, say, 4 incoming deadlines or getting a flat tire on a random Tuesday morning, or even just the lingering friction of a difficult conversation you had yesterday. Everyone, and I mean everyone, has a load to carry. And honestly, calculating its sheer mass is step one in evaluating your actual resilience.
Okay, so if stress is the gravity pulling you down, your coping skills are the steel beams pushing back up. These are your ingrained habits, your emotional boundaries, your problem-solving frameworks. Taking a quick 10-minute walk to clear your head instead of firing off an angry email, that is a rebar reinforcement right there. These skills are what form the concrete foundation that keeps your whole internal structure from just pancaking under the pressure.
And as we compare these two, you start to see that this is a highly dynamic, active relationship. When the stress load gets heavier, maybe because of a sudden career shift or a family emergency, your structural supports have to be actively reinforced to maintain that equilibrium. The strongest buildings in the world, they aren't perfectly rigid, no way. They're deliberately built to sway and adapt to changing winds and heavy weight. And your resilience works the exact same way. It's this ongoing, beautiful adaptation between the load you carry and the support you build.
So, we have the formula now, but here's the thing. You have to supply your own data. I want you to take a hard, honest look at the exact weight you are carrying today, right now, and then look at the foundation you've poured to hold it all up. Looking at the blueprint of your own life, is your personal architecture built to handle the load?